Alright, I've done a bit of studying, and I've been studying about vermiculture or worm culture in making compost. Well, I like the idea of having little workers working for me for days and months on end, producing something really useful, so I thought I'd better get into this vermiculture thing. So I did a bit of studying, and I think the one that appeals to me the most is the 3-bin system, the 3 bins. So basically it's stacking bins, but we have to do a bit of preparation for them. First of all, worms like the dark, so the darker the bin the better, the darker the material, and probably better not being opaque. So a lot of storage boxes that you can see through are probably not the best idea. Well, the first one will need drip holes in the bottom. In fact, so will the second one will need drip holes in the bottom. So what actually happens is the worms do their thing and the liquid drips through into the bottom and collects in the bottom one. So I won't need a spacer for that because that's fine, but this one I want it to stand a little bit prouder because I've got worms and I've got material inside. So I've cut these roughly 4-inch little slats that will engage on there, and they will hold up the bin when they're in. And to fit them on, I'll need a bit of glue, so I've got some Gorilla Glue there. I've also got a little tap faucet for which I'll need to drill. To drill all the main holes I'll need a 6mm drill, and to drill for the tap I'm using this step drill. So I'll get on and do all the drilling and what have you, and then I'll get back to you. Okay, after a bit of jiggery pokery, managed to get the tap on and it's fitting nicely. It doesn't need to hold much pressure because it's only going to be a little bit of worm juice in the bottom of the container, and I'll swill all that plastic out from the inside. And the next thing I need to do is get drilling all the holes in the lid and in the bottom of these 2 containers. So there we have it. Worms are living, breathing creatures, so they'll need some air, so I've put some holes in the lid. I've glued my my wooden spacers onto the side using Gorilla Glue. They should set nice and firm. I'm just leaving it this way up so they stay in place. And the bottom of each one is drilled, of these top 2. And my tap's in place. I've tested it for waterproofness, so that's all ready to go. So the next thing we've got to do is get it ready for having its little occupants in there, and that all takes place in there. So I'll get you a better camera angle on that. Okay, right, the first thing I want to do is get some bedding in, and there's lovely free bedding available from Amazon, which is this paper and Amazon boxes, which I put through my shredder, and it makes a nice layer of bedding in the bottom. So it's just this paper I put through my shredder and the Amazon cartons through the shredder. Just make sure you've got a powerful enough shredder for it to work. And the next thing I want to do is get in some compost. So in goes the compost, and that much should do for now. And the next thing I want to do is get some water on that and get that wetted down a bit, but you don't want it too damp. And I'll get that mixed in. let that go through. And it creates a nice little environment for the worms to live in. And there's plenty of things for them to get nibbling on in there at the moment. We're getting a bit more compost. Bit more water. I bet you're dying to see the worms, aren't you? Well, to cause the worms the least stress, I'm getting all this ready for them before I bring them out. Because we don't want to stress them up. They're our little workers, aren't they? And they'll be turning this into first class compost. So let's have a feel of that. Should be just about like that all over. Another thing I want to get in there is a little bit of grittiness. So we've got an handful of sand. That's sharp sand. Not too much. Give that another water. Right. And I'll go and get the worms now. Okay. They all came in the post in a plastic bag, so because they arrived before I had all this available, I had to bed them in here, and I just bedded them with some coffee grounds and some compost, and they're a little bit docile at the moment, but they'll soon pick up. They're red wrigglers, lovely worms, really good worms, excellent composting worms. And these, amazing, they will eat their own weight in food and convert it to compost every day. So I'm just going to put them there, and it causes them the least stress. Look, just get them in there, and then I'll just get them a bit more compost to go on top of them, and they'll start moving. They'll head down into the dark, which is their nature. Give them another coating with a bit of compost. They'll like that because that de-stresses them. A bit of rainfall. And this has got holes in the bottom. Any excess water will just drip through. I've not set it on the base yet because I don't want that getting full of grit and dirt. So the last thing I want to put on there, I think I'm going to put on a layer of this bedding, again courtesy of Amazon bedding we'll call it, and the rest of that goes in my compost. So another drip of water to make sure everything's moist and bedded down, and then we'll put a hat on all that, just that, and we now have a hotel full of happy worms, or worms that will be very happy. Now once they start to, I'm just going to let them bed in for a day or two, but once they start to bed in, and once they're used to their new environment, I'm going to start introducing food, and I'll just use kitchen scraps. I'll try to avoid things like onion and citrus and garlic, but I'll put it down one side, and then the next time I put food in, I'll put it down the other side, and they should go a week to 10 days between feeds. So I just give them kitchen scraps. I'll put stuff aside. And another thing you can do with kitchen scraps is grind it up. I don't think I will go to that point, but some people advocate grinding it up and putting it in because it's easier for them to break up and digest, so to speak. But I'm quite happy with that. So there's my little vermiculture bin. Rather happy with the way that's turned out. We'll put it on its base. Let me tip this water out the base. I've tested it for leaks. We sit Wormy on his thing, and you're thinking, well, what about the other bin you did? Well, that sits on top of that. So let's get that done. And that sits on top like that. Now the point of this bin is, once the worms have converted all that into compost and worm casts, once the worm pee, as it were, starts to drop out, and that collects in the bottom, the casts collect in the top, then we start doing the same with this. We fill this up with compost and bedding and everything, and the worms will find out there's nothing in there, but there's plenty up here. They'll sniff it out, and then they'll come up through these holes, and they'll start to populate this bin until they're mostly done, and then we can harvest the compost in the first bin that we set as a home for the worms. So effectively it's a worm hotel, and the worms pay their rent with their droppings and their secretions. I think that's a good deal, don't you? Rather pleased with that. Hey friends, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you would like to follow my channel, please subscribe, and don't forget to click the bell icon and select all to receive notifications for all my future videos. It would be great to hear from you in the comments, and I'll try to get back to as many of you as possible. You may wish to check out these titles, or even help me out with a donation using the links in the description below the video. Thanks for watching.